He's the head man over at Extreme Couture, one of the very best in the game right now. He is Eric Nicksick, and he is kind enough to join us again via the magic of Zoom. There he is. Eric, what's happening, my man? Ooh, I like that. You're going with the LA hat in LA. That's very smart. Very smart. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Death Row 2? Damn. You're really going for the cheap pop. I like that.
Let's go. What's up, Ariel? How you doing, brother?
Everyone's very excited here. We're pumped. What a fight. I can't imagine what it's like for you. I saw you guys doing a training session yesterday. There's a lot to talk to you about, so I really appreciate the time, Eric, and congrats on a tremendous 2021 for you and the entire team. You guys are just killing it out there, and so what a way to start the year for you and the team. Could I ask, as I just said, like there's a lot of drama going into this fight, right? A lot of drama. And I know you're the X's and O's guy, you're the guy, but you know Francis. I mean, I see him with your child. Like, you guys are tight. Dare I say you're very good friends. Do you feel like the drama is getting to be too much? Is he able to block it all out? Is he focused on Saturday?
Yeah, very much so. And I think he just kind of understands that this is the relationship that him and Ferdinand had in the past. I think it's something that he's put behind him. And we don't really talk a whole lot about it, to be honest with you. It doesn't make like billboard material. We don't really get into like a lot of that stuff, especially during camp. You know, we spoke about it, I think, a while back as a friend. Like, he kind of let me in on some of the stuff. And, the thing that he said to me that I thought was very, like, as a parent, like, it just made sense. I was like kind of proud of him. He's like, hey, my relationship with Ferdinand shouldn't affect your relationship with Ferdinand or anybody else for that matter. My relationship with him is what it is because of this, and this. But I don't think anybody else should be disrespectful or try to defend me or try to make my beef with him their beef as well. And I actually ran into Ferdinand in the lobby, and I said that to him today. I was like, man, it's nothing but respect for me. So your guys' relationship is your guys' thing. And to be quite fair, man, hopefully one day those guys can resolve that, because I think that there's just some communication things that need to be handled.
That is very mature, Francis, of you and of, I would presume, Fernand Lopez. When you saw him earlier, did he reciprocate? Was it all good on his side?
Yeah, like when I saw him, I kind of made a mention about his Instagram post, and I was like, Coach, like things are getting a little bit out of context. It shouldn't be about me and you. It should be about the athletes. And he agreed. And, I think tensions are high when it comes to a former coach and a former athlete in the positions that they are. And I said, listen, man, you should be celebrated for the work you've done with your fighters. Point blank. I was like, you've done a phenomenal job. I think you're a great MMA coach. And I think it should be just left at that. And then come Saturday, I'll be the first to tip my hat across from you from the cage. Let's go out and perform and compete against one another. And after, I'll be sure to shake your hand. But, other than that, man, there's no tensions between me and him or anybody else. It shouldn't be that way.
At any point, you feel like it crossed the line, got a little too personal? Do you feel like it just was unnecessary?
Yeah, I think so. But, also too, Ariel, I think for me, like, I have to be able to gather the facts. Sometimes I'll see things on social media, or I'll see something on Instagram, and we all as a society, I think we take it as literal, and I actually took a page from you. You and I are talking one day about like actual journalism. And it's like, man, I'm not going to come out and say something until I do my homework and make sure that that's actually true. So I saw something that was posted. It was a quote that Ferdinand that he made. And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of a shitty thing to say. And then I think, well, what's the source? Where did he say that at? What was the information that was said? Because you have to give your due diligence as a person first and foremost. But before I make a decision or a thought on somebody, I take that with a little grain of salt with this day and age, and with everybody at their fingertips and social media. I know guys that are 19, 20 years old that have 500,000 followers that they don't even know who they are behind a Instagram page that really can cause and affect certain people. I've done interviews with Instagram people that when they started talking, I'm like, you don't even know how to pronounce this fighter's name, but you're out there saying things about people and making this narrative. So I have to give the benefit of the doubt a lot of times when it comes to certain journalism or things that are being said.
One thing I was curious to get your take on was, this release of old training footage. It always sort of feels like there's a code, right, that you don't talk about that stuff. How did you feel when some of this old footage was released of them training together?
So again, like, I try to look at it from a different perspective. I try to think to myself, well, is this something that is practiced by that gym? Have they done this in the past? Is it kind of like we have our code from the old school regime of Extreme Couture, and it was frowned upon. but maybe in a different society or a different gym or a different country, that it's okay to do that. Maybe it's welcomed. Maybe it's to help bring notoriety to certain gyms and teams. So I have to think of it from a different perspective. Secondly, like, I don't know if Ferdinand was actually the person to release that footage. That was never told we just assumed that it was. So I have to look at all those circumstances. I was asked numerous times about, have I personally ever released sparring footage? My answer to that is still no. I never personally have. I have hours and hours of footage, but me personally, I was raised by Jay Heron and Mike Pyle, the old school guys. That was frowned upon. We just didn't do that. But that was the era and time I was brought up in. Doesn't make it wrong. We're in a new society where everything's at your fingertips, phones, social media, and everything else. So, but I just was brought up a little bit differently when it came to that. So me personally, like, I think if it's a common practice for your gym and your team and you do that consistently, then you shouldn't be mad about that situation. I don't release sparring footage. I don't think there's a place for it, but to each is their own.
You know, this fight obviously is super unique for so many reasons. One of which is obviously the history between Fernand Lopez and Francis Ngannou. At any point, because you're Francis's guy now, have you felt like you needed to bite your tongue? You want to defend your guy, you want to talk on your guy's behalf, but you don't want to make this about like you and the gym and their gym and all that stuff, because like I said, the buildup to this one is one of the more unique buildups in recent memory.
For sure. And I think a lot of times you just have to take the mature route in a lot of those areas. Like, yeah, you like when he posted a couple Sundays ago, Ferdinand posted on his Instagram, and it was completely taken out of context. He was like calling me kind of a hypocrite, saying that I don't post gym videos of sparring. And then he took Francis's YouTube channel with his YouTube team and posted their sparring footage and made it look like it was me posting. And I'm seeing it, and your first instinct is to do what? Defend yourself, yell at the guy, make it a problem. And I just said, Coach, you're taking this out of context. And I explained it to him, and I said, hey, safe travels. See you when I see it. And then he kind of like, there was like one back and forth. And I said, it's Sunday, man. I'm spending time with my kids. I'm not going to talk about this right now. This isn't about me and you. May the best man win. See you next week. And I shut it down. That was it.
This is what, via DM or something?
No, I wrote it on his
Oh, wow.
Page.
Okay.
Like,
Wow.
On his page. Yeah. Respect. I wrote it right on his page. And then he tweeted something, and I wrote it back to him again. I was like, look, man, like, I'm not going back and forth with you. This shouldn't be about me and you, man. Like, I get it that you want to defend yourself in this scenario, this situation, but you're taking this all out of context. I was asked a very simple question. Do I share sparring footage? My answer was no. You took it as like I was attacking you. The question was just, have I ever shared sparring footage? And the answer remains no.
Okay. And respect for defending yourself, but not taking it to the point where, you know, it creates more drama and more headlines and more distractions. And now in the buildup to this fight, is like the UFC is going to talk about the relationship and all that. Us on the media side, we know about probably the even more interesting aspect to this, and that's the contract situation. And that's, you know, last fight of the deal and what could happen. And he's talked about it. Markel, his agent, Martin, has talked about it. And what I was saying on the show on Monday was, I think this is a pick. Like, I think they're both tremendous fighters. And you could sit here and probably make a very strong case for Ciryl to win. And I'll say, like, yeah, that makes sense. And like, that's why I'm so excited for this fight. These are the best fights, right? I worry from a Francis perspective, and I'd love to get your take on this, is there's too much going on. Like, sometimes when we see guys who are battling the UFC in there, in addition to the opponent, it becomes too much, right? You're not just battling the opponent, you're battling Fernand Lopez, you're battling Dana White, you're battling the media and all that. He's bet on himself here, right? Last fight of his deal, who knows what's going to happen? Do you fear at any point in this process that there's just too much going on, too much happening up here, too much drama?
I don't feel like that at all, and that's something I think inherently that you would come to that conclusion, like, okay, is this getting a little out of hand? But then my communication with them and stuff that I talked to him about, I don't get that vibe from it at all. Like, this is very much that Jerry Maguire, Rod Tidwell moment. You know, it's like, you know, I'm betting on myself, and I think I'm going to win. I think I can do this, and you know, we went over some of the scenarios and what the possibilities were if you know, win, lose, or draw, like what happens. And he's at peace with everything, Ariel. Like, he's comfortable. He's like, hey, I'm going to be fine. I feel good about my situation I'm in, no matter what. And it gave me a sense of peace, man. Because yes, inherently I'm like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, and then like this is giving me anxiety. And dude, he's just so calm and cool, and he doesn't bring a lot of added energy or bad energy or anything to the training sessions, or he comes over for dinner and he's just a bro. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if you feel good about everything and you're happy and you're content with everything, my job is to help you further those goals and achieve that mission. So I'm all in whatever you decide on, no matter what. But yeah, man, I felt like that for a little while. I was losing some sleep, but he feels good about it, so I feel good about it.
Tremendous. And the other interesting thing for me is I think he's one of the best fighters in the world. I think he doesn't get promoted well. We could go on and on about the missteps, but we haven't seen him since March. So I'm just wondering, like, how much better is he? What has he worked on? What do you think he has improved on since the last time? It's almost been a year, and the guy hasn't been injured. It's not like he's been trying, to rehab a knee. The guy's been 100% healthy. So in your opinion, what has he improved on the most since we've last seen him?
That's the best time that we have, honestly. We have so much fun because there's not specifics when it comes to camp. We had an idea. It was going to be John Jones, Derek Lewis, or Ciryl Gane, kind of in that scope, right? In the landscape of what the heavyweight division looks like. So you can either you can start trying to game plan for those specific fighters, or you can go out and just work on your growth and get better in areas that you feel like you can add to your game and your skill set. And that's kind of what we did. It was nice because in a lot of ways too, Ariel, we had a camp with Derek Lewis already going. And then the fight, remember, was set for September. Then it got switched and everything else. So he went home for a month and then came right back. And then we were right back to work. So I just think his all-around skill set, we try to blend everything in. He's obviously been wrestling a lot more. He's obviously working on his ground game and things like that. But it's great when you do that. But how do you blend it together, right? I think it's important to make sure that you set up your striking with your wrestling and show the level changes when you have both attributes that you're able to use. So really the blend and the combination of the MMA skill set, I think, is what we worked on the most.
Can you even put into words, can you describe what it is like taking a kick from Francis Ngannou? When I see that footage of you, I know you got mitts on and all that stuff, but like you're padded up, but I mean, it looks painful just watching that. Can you even describe what it feels like? Multiple ones. Boom, boom, boom.
I've been hit in the back with a baseball bat before. And literally the bat broke. It was a wooden bat. It broke across my back, and it didn't bother me one bit. And then I've been kicked by Francis to the point where I couldn't walk for 2 weeks, man. Like it's bad. It hurts, man. It hurts bad. And with leg pads on, I'll have the Fairtex pad on, and like he'll start kicking that pad, and the pad all of a sudden feels like it starts to get scared, and the pad starts to move apart.
Wow.
You're like, oh man, this thing's gonna land hard. This thing's gonna land flush. So yeah, it's a different type of power, man. Like the way this man can kick and punch and throw and generate power, it's ungodly. I just, there's nothing that you can train to be like that type of power. I think it's just our job as coaches to be able to understand what's next. How do you add on to that power? How do you not fall over that power? And then what attributes or what strikes can you do to go off of that? And don't let it allow to be the end of that power shot. So those are things I think that we've worked on a lot. But dude, I'll tell you what, man, poor Dewey's elbows, my legs,
oh God, I can't imagine.
Just getting beat up constantly.
By the way, why were you hit over the back with a baseball bat?
It was a good college story.
Okay. Was it a friend who did it to you, or was it an enemy?
No, I mean, it was a little fight. A little fight broke out, and the guy tried to help his buddy. His buddy was underneath, and I was elbowing him up pretty good, and his buddy came behind me with the back with the baseball bat. And the bat broke like across my back, and the guy jumped in his car, and we ran over to the car and broke out his window.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
Damn, you're a gangster.
That got me in a little bit of trouble. Yeah, that got me in a little bit of trouble. So
I can't imagine
the old days.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine nailing someone in the back with a bat and the guy not flinching, and just like when you look back, you're like, that's all you got? Should have brought in a
I looked back at him. And pointed at him. Yeah. It didn't work out too well for him that night.
Damn. What impresses you about Gane? Still like just 3.5 years in the game.
Man, he's an anomaly. The guy's efficient. That's the biggest thing I think when I look at him, his efficiency. He's not a guy who's gonna try to like overthrow things. Like everything's set up very nicely. very nice vertical motion, his bouncing in and out. And the other thing too that really stands out to me, Ariel, is like he doesn't really get squared up. He's not like in a position where he's getting just, in the pocket, feet in the sand, and he's just throwing punches. A lot of that to me just feels like, he understands his range really, really well. So, and that's just with the striking. I think every once in a while he mixes in some of his clinch game, his wrestling, some of his groundwork. And it's important to show that on tape because it makes us as coaches study more and work more because we know that he's pretty well-rounded. So this guy is very deserving of his position in fighting for the title, and I think he's one of those guys that's going to be up there for a long period of time. And everything goes right, I expect Francis and him to probably fight 3 times within their career.
Do you think it's important not to use the full 25 minutes here?
I would like that. I think that's important in a lot of ways where, we know what we have and what we're capable of doing. And we train for 25-minute fights, right? Like, I think you have to get that out of your head. And for me doing my due diligence with Francis, I spent a lot of time with him and understanding what went wrong in the Stipe fight. And that helped me build on things. And a lot of the things I feel like he was overlooking, not necessarily, but maybe his fears was the deep waters. And I think when you put that in your head, you start to automatically put yourself there. So we started talking to him about it. And I used to always say, like, well, what's your boogeyman? And what are you afraid of? And he's like, deep waters and my cardio and this. And I said, bro, well, what happens if you can conquer that boogeyman? And he goes, well, you're the baddest man on the planet. I said, well, let's get to work, motherfucker. Let's get going, So he believed in the process and understands that, like, hey, you can hit hard. We don't need to work on that. We don't need to change that. But let's work on these other areas that can incentivize you to be able to hit hard for a longer period of time.
Do you believe as a coach that, like, obviously everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. If someone has a cardio problem, is that fixable to the point where it's no longer a problem, or is it always something that you have to work on? Essentially, like, we've always heard about, like Connor, people would always say cardio problem, and maybe he can make it a little bit better to where he doesn't get as tired as early as he did in the past, but it's always going to be like this Achilles heel for him. Can you fix that to the point where it's not an issue? And if so, how do you fix that?
I think a lot of times too, Ariel, it's mental. You hear somebody and they'll say, like, I've had a fighter one time, like, man, I just fade in the 3rd round. And I'm like, you're putting that already in your head. You're telling yourself when the 3rd round comes, I'm going to fade, right? I'm like, stop saying that shit. Like, let's not make it a problem. Let's make it a solvable situation. Let's start thinking mindset wise first. Let's start there in the head. And then let's start putting the pieces together when it comes to cardio stuff. So, obviously, like, our Sicko Saturdays have kind of become famous where we run simulation rounds and doing all these things. And it really started off with, man, like me and Dan Ige. Like, we're the only 2 guys that were really doing it, coach and fighter. A couple other guys, Eddie Baraka would come in and we would do this stuff. But it started to catch a trend. And now all of a sudden, every fighter is in the gym every Saturday at our gym doing these cardio sessions because they work. They work. You're starting to see that. And I tell guys, like, look, man, it's one thing to beat somebody. It's one thing to knock somebody out and win a fight. It's another thing to demoralize somebody. It's another thing to beat somebody up for 14 minutes and 58 seconds and then finish them. Because there is no, like, I got caught. It wasn't my night. No, you got the living shit kicked out of you. And here's how we're going to start implementing those things. So I lean heavy on the UFCPI. They do a great job. The strength and conditioning coaches around the area, they do a great job. We're always in contact. But we run these hard practices Monday through Thursday. We run these hard practices in the mornings, and we run these Sicko Saturdays that I think the overall concept of the standard of the team is built off of cardio. So I do think it's fixable, and I do think it starts with the mental side first, and then you can start tapping into the physical stuff.
How many fighters, do you know off the top of your head, how many fighters are you the head coach for right now? How many pros?
17, 18.
Is that
like bunch?
Is that enough? Is that too much? Like, how do you deal? Because, like, right now you've been in LA or the OC whatever since probably when Tuesday you got there, right? So, like, you can't be there for your other guys. Like, how are you able to deal with all of this? Because, you know, you're head coach of a basketball team, right? You're with those same 15 guys and you're traveling. Like, you don't, when you're spending time with this guy, it's not like you're ignoring that guy or girl. But in your field, I always wonder about the MMA coach who has to travel, it seems like almost every weekend. I guess you've been lucky having all the Apex events, so you don't have to travel as much. You're in Vegas. But how are you at dealing with all the different schedules and all the different fighters that you're looking after?
We have such a talented coaching staff in our gym, Ariel, that I think that you have to be able to trust and understand that, like, you have to lean on one another. And, you know, without Jimmy Gifford and Eddie Bracco and Dennis Davis and Ray and Nate and all the boys over at Extreme Couture, you know, we're able to share a lot of the responsibilities. And furthermore, you know, we're all taking care of by our fighters and one another. So I think it starts with me as like, you know, the leader, and my job is to make sure I take care of my team first, and then I eat last. Leaders eat last, right? So I have to lean on those guys when I'm out of town, and vice versa. When they go and they're on the road, I'm going to pick up the slack when Eddie's gone for Casey O'Neill, or Eddie's going to pick up the slack for me for Kai Kamaka or Dan Ige. And man, it's just one hand washes the other, and we're all just loving the success that we can build with one another in the team. And that really starts with me, man. It's my attitude and the way we have to be able to communicate with one another and make sure guys are getting paid correctly, make sure guys are getting taken care of. Because without that stuff, you're absolutely right, Ariel, that stuff starts to fall apart. Guys don't feel like they're getting taken care of. So Puna, Sean Strickland, Ian Kudalaba, you know, all have fights coming up. So now that I'm gone, I let them know, like, hey, Coach Nate is here. Here's what I want with the schedule with Nate. Or Ray's in town. I need this with Ray. Or there's a communication between all of us, and there hasn't been a problem, man. Everybody picks up the slack.
You posted recently a tribute a few weeks ago about the late Robert Follis, and you wrote something that I wanted to ask you about. You wrote, 4 years gone, and I'm still learning from you. The longer I'm in this sport, the more I understand the things you were going through. Rest easy, coach. What did you mean by that? The longer I'm in this sport, the more I understand the things that you were going through.
You know, he had a lot of I wouldn't say hate, but resentment towards the sport. I think the way he was paid as a coach, the way he was treated, and none of us were innocent by that regard. You know, I think for me, being the gym manager at Extreme Couture, we butted heads on certain things. I know a lot that he dealt with fighters paying him correctly or on time. There's a lot, Ariel. There's a lot. And here's a man who was going through a lot himself, you know. And I think the loss of his brother during that time was when I really started seeing the change in Coach Follis. And a lot of it, you know, it hurt, man. It sucked. It sucked to see, because you can only do so much when somebody's leans on alcohol, you know. And I had my own problems with it from my own history, because, like, I was around an alcoholic family, and I started to see somebody in a guy that I thought was a father figure in Robert Follis. And I started having issues with myself knowing I was around him, but I couldn't help him either, man. So, you know, he always now that he's been gone for so long, I see him clearly now, if that makes sense. Like, he comes to me more, maybe in my dreams or my thoughts, and he comes clear. He comes like from a happy, safe place. And I talk to his brother weekly. Rick Follis and I are very close. And being able to talk to Rick in a weird way, Ariel, is like, I feel like I'm able to talk to Rob. And, you know, a lot of times I think that, like, the only dude to ever really believe in me the way certain people did was Robert. He believed in me before I believed in myself. He knew that I can do this at the highest level. He felt that my leadership was going to catch up to my skill set. And, you know, without him, man, I'm just not in this position. So anytime I have a moment to honor him, I know Gym of the Year was a big goal of his for us to win. I know Coach of the Year for me last year was the first person I wrote was Rick Follis, you know, because I knew that was going to be important to him. So I hold him very near and dear to my heart, especially now that he's been gone. I think we've all had a little time to heal. And man, I miss him dearly. So a lot of his lessons in life, a lot of his moreover lessons in life than his MMA lessons, I think resonate with me more now.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful to hear. I did want to ask you about Rico Verhoeven. You guys posted a couple stuff of him stopping by the Glory heavyweight champion of the world, obviously the kickboxing legend. How much of a factor was he in this game? Was that just like a couple of days and that was it, or did you guys use him a lot?
We didn't get to use him as much as we'd like to have, but the whole idea of bringing Rico in was, a lot of people were like, oh, well, Rico's not really the same style as Ciryl Gane. Well, Rico's one of the baddest kickboxers on the planet, and he can mimic any style that he wants. But that wasn't why we brought him in. We brought him in because I wanted him to move around with Francis and see if he could pick up anything that we were doing that were tells from his vantage point, from his skill set, from his eyes. Hey, is there things that we're doing that are exposing ourselves in certain areas? I thought of it more of a defensive side of things more than an offensive side of things. I wanted an expert eye of one of the best kickboxers on the planet to break our guy down and work on things. So I kind of reverse engineered it, I think, more than we were trying to bring him in to spar.
I'm fascinated with coaching. I coached high school basketball back in the day. That's pretty much the extent of my career. But coaches are very interesting to me, and also who they draw inspiration from. Like when you hear of, like Phil Jackson, right? Famously, he would have all kinds of books that you would never expect a coach to give a book like that to his star players and stuff. Like, who do you draw inspiration from? Whether it's fellow coach, I know like Teddy Atlas. I can't imagine when he comes into the gym those couple of times a year, not like, wow, I want to pick this dude's brain. What a legend. Who do you draw inspiration from, and within the coaching ranks and maybe outside that you try to use their philosophies, influences on your fighters?
I'll say first and foremost is my dad. I played football under my dad. He was our defensive coordinator. My dad's a lifelong coach in football. My uncle as well. Coming up under them, grew up on the football field, Ariel. I mean, every day I was on the field with them. I was a 4-year starter, not a starter, but I was 4 years on varsity. So, I mean, being around like high level coaching talent. And then when I got to college, definitely my dad and my uncle, but I would say in the MMA field, man, definitely Tyson Chartier, James Krause, Coach Hoof, Henry Hoof, Trevor. But Tyson and I lean on each other a lot, and we're very, very close, very close. I probably talk to Tyson maybe every other day. I usually go to him on situations or just advice on stuff and vice versa. So we're very open and candid. And that relationship kind of built on, years ago, 7-8 years ago, we'd be on the road. Remember how it'd be like red corner, blue corner in the dressing rooms or the locker rooms? Mm-hmm. And you'd come in during the week and you would kind of rub elbows with these guys and these coaches. And for some reason why him and I just really hit it off, man. And we've been close ever since. So definitely Tyson. And I couldn't be more proud of him and Calvin and the New England Cartel, what they did last week. And, bouncing back off that fight with Max Holloway, I thought was important. But, I think for us as coaches, man, it's important to have that little camaraderie, I think, with the fraternity of guys that we can lean on.
For sure. Can I ask you in closing, are you a predictions guy? What are you feeling for Saturday?
Man, I'm not really a predictions guy, but for me, I'm a vibe guy, like the vibe and the energy of everything. And being in Vegas with obviously the gym and the family and the hustle and bustle, it's like, dude, you're just running from one stop to the next. And I could not wait to get out here for fight week because everything just becomes tunnel vision for me. I got one focus and one task at hand. And then the moment we landed and the moment we got here and like the clarity and like the energy with all the coaches and everything else, the vibe just felt amazing. So I'm super excited for Saturday. In my head, I think Francis knocks him out. That's just my feelings and my vibes on the situation. And of course, I'm not going out on a limb. If Francis is going to win, it's probably going to be by knockout, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm more of that energy feel, Ariel. So that's how I feel about the situation, man. Everybody's lighthearted and having a good time, and we're excited for Saturday.
I can't wait, man. Again, congrats on what you're doing. I mean, the list of fighters that you have there, when you show those pictures, other fighters, is like, holy crap, this is an army. And it's so great to see Extreme Couture because I have a soft spot in my heart for Extreme Couture because I remember going there when I first started my career and walking around, and there's Forrest, and there's Gina, and there's Mike Pyle, and Jay Haran. And I mean, and obviously the Coutures, Randy, Ryan, and the fact that you guys have been able to stand tall all these years and all the ups and downs is an amazing thing. And now you're still one of the very best gyms in the sport, and you're one of the best coaches in the sport. So I wish you guys nothing but the best on Saturday. Respect to how you're handling everything leading up to this, all the drama. I give you a lot of respect for that, and I hope it all goes for your sake in your favor come Saturday night.
I thank you. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, there he is, Eric Nicksick. Big fight for him and the entire Extreme Couture team. Of course,